Biafran Liberation Army, led by Commander Gentle Dayahu, reportedly captured Owerri on June 29, 2025, in a surprise attack where they overpowered Musa and Asari Dokubo's fighters, destroying armored tanks and seizing control. Musa and Asari Dokubo fighters are affiliated with Nigerian security forces who were deployed by Nigerian government in the southeast to crush the Biafran Liberation Army and weaken the Biafra movement. But ironically, they suffered setback and defeats. As the Biafra Liberation Army, led by Commander Gentle Dayahu, successfully ambushed them and burnt their armored tank and chased them out of Owerri, the Imo state capital. The ambush was described as intense and strategic, with sniper fire and direct confrontation. Musa allegedly walked into a trap, unaware the Biafran fighters had already taken position. Meanwhile, a critic has called on international communities to take note, declaring that a full-scale war is ongoing between Biafran forces and what he labeled the Nigerian terrorist government, urging recognition of their struggle. Commander Gentle Dayahu and other Biafran leaders were praised for their dedication to defending Biafra, and calls were made for unity and awareness among supporters around the world. One of Biafra supporter, Stephen Cross, discussed legal developments involving Simon Ekpa, claiming faith in the Finnish court to eventually free him, while also celebrating the Kenyan court's ruling that Nnamdi Kanu's rendition to Nigeria was illegal. He accused Nigerian officials, including President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and General Christopher Musa, of corruption, mass killings in the southeast, and bribing individuals to testify falsely against Simon Ekpa. Heavy criticism was directed at Igbo collaborators, especially those allegedly paid to sabotage the Biafran cause or testify against Simon Ekpa, with accusations of betrayal and greed. He repeatedly emphasized that Simon Ekpa's trial in Finland is nearing its end, with expectations that he will be released soon and will continue the Biafran independence movement without restrictions. A strong rejection of the Nigerian state was expressed, with claims that the country is irredeemably corrupt, unjust and violent, especially towards Southeasterners who face economic and physical oppression. He concluded with a warning to Nigerian authorities to withdraw all military presence from the southeast, predicting more intense resistance if Simon Ekpa and other leaders regain freedom, and asserting that Biafra's liberation is unstoppable. The early morning of June 29, 2025, began like many others in Owerri, the capital city of Imo State in southeastern Nigeria. The streets were quiet, and many residents were either asleep or just waking up, unaware that history was about to unfold before their eyes in a dramatic and unforgettable way. By the end of that day, Owerri would no longer be under the control of the forces loyal to the Nigerian government. Instead, the Biafran Liberation Army, led by the widely recognized and feared Commander Gentle Dayahu, would raise their flag over the city in a moment that many supporters of Biafra called a turning point in their long and painful struggle for independence. Commander Gentle Dayahu had become a name spoken with both reverence and fear across southeastern Nigeria. To the supporters of the Biafran movement, he represented hope, strength, and determination. To the Nigerian authorities and their affiliated militias, he was a formidable adversary, intelligent, strategic, and dangerous. His rise to prominence had been swift, fueled by a series of tactical victories, a growing base of loyal fighters, and an ability to outmaneuver opponents who underestimated him. The capture of Owerri was not just a symbolic victory. It was a carefully planned and flawlessly executed military operation that shook the Nigerian establishment to its core. In the weeks leading up to the attack, there had been whispers and rumors that something big was coming. Supporters of Biafra shared cryptic messages online, encouraging patience and perseverance. Videos began to circulate showing Biafran fighters training in the forests, performing drills with discipline and unity. At the same time, tensions in Imo State were growing. Residents were growing weary of the increasing military presence, roadblocks, random searches, and night raids. Musa Boys, an armed group aligned with Nigerian military interests and supported by Asari Dokubo's faction, had taken over major checkpoints and were patrolling the city streets. Their presence was meant to intimidate and suppress any sign of rebellion. However, it also fueled resentment and a deep desire for change. What happened on the morning of June 29th was not just a sudden outburst of violence, it was the result of meticulous planning. The Biafran Liberation Army, under the leadership of Commander Gentle Dayahu, had studied the movements of Musa Boys and Asari Dokubo's fighters for weeks. They had mapped out their routines, their weaknesses, and their blind spots. Commander Gentle Dayahu's forces knew exactly when and where to strike, and when they did, it was swift, brutal, and effective. The fighters moved into position before sunrise, taking strategic points in and around Owerri, including a heavily guarded checkpoint near the government house and 2 military outposts on the city's outskirts. According to eyewitness accounts, the ambush began with sniper fire that picked off the guards stationed at the entrances of the city. The confusion that followed created a perfect opening for the Biafran fighters to advance. Within minutes, they had overrun the outer defenses. Musa Boys and Asari Dokubo's men were caught completely off guard. Some tried to mount a defense, but they were outmaneuvered. An armored tank stationed near the Imo State University junction was targeted with improvised explosives and set ablaze. The explosion sent a massive cloud of black smoke into the sky, visible across much of the city. It became a symbol of the fall of the government's control. The fighting was intense but brief. Many of the Musa Boys and Asari fighters, realizing they had walked into a trap, fled the city. Some abandoned their weapons and uniforms. Others attempted to regroup on the outskirts, but were pursued by Biafran forces who had anticipated this reaction and were waiting. The retreat quickly turned into a rout. Videos began to emerge online showing the once feared Musa Boys running through the bush, some without shoes, others shouting for help. It was a scene of humiliation for a group that had previously operated with impunity. By midday, Owerri was under the control of the Biafran Liberation Army. Residents, many of whom had stayed indoors during the fighting, cautiously came out to see what had happened. What they witnessed was surreal. Heavily armed men in camouflage, some with Biafran flags tied around their arms, patrolling the streets and securing buildings. Unlike the previous military presence, these fighters were being greeted with cheers and applause. People waved white cloths and chanted songs of freedom. For the first time in a long while, many residents felt like they were seeing a glimpse of the Biafra they had long dreamed of. The significance of the Owerri takeover was not lost on the larger Biafran movement. Supporters across the world celebrated the news. Social media platforms were flooded with messages of praise for Commander Gentle Dayahu and his men. Hashtags like Biafra Rising and Owerri Liberated began trending, drawing attention to what many viewed as the beginning of a full-scale liberation campaign. One outspoken supporter, Stephen Cross, took to a live broadcast to discuss not just the military victory, but also the broader political and legal context surrounding the Biafran struggle. Stephen Cross, known for his deep involvement in Biafran activism, used his platform to connect the military success in Owerri with ongoing legal battles involving other Biafran leaders. He specifically mentioned Simon Ekpa, the Finland-based Biafran spokesperson and political leader whose ongoing trial in Finland had drawn international attention. According to Stephen Cross, the fight for Biafra was not just being waged on the battlefield, but also in the courtrooms of Europe and the hearts of millions of supporters scattered across the globe. Stephen Cross expressed faith that Simon Ekpa would eventually be freed by the Finnish court system, which he described as fair and independent. He linked this optimism to the recent ruling by a Kenyan high court, which declared the rendition of Nnamdi Kanu to Nigeria as illegal and unlawful. This judgment had been hailed as a major victory for international justice and had renewed hope among Biafrans that legal recognition of their plight was gaining traction. Stephen Cross accused Nigerian officials, including President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and General Christopher Musa, of orchestrating illegal activities and using violence to suppress legitimate political aspirations. He did not stop there. In an emotional segment of his broadcast, Stephen Cross criticized those within the Igbo community who were allegedly accepting money to betray the Biafran cause. He claimed that some had been paid to testify falsely against Simon Ekpa or to disrupt the movement from within. These individuals, he said, were not just betraying their people, they were betraying history. The passion in his voice was unmistakable, and it resonated deeply with those who had seen firsthand the suffering and marginalization of the southeastern region under Nigerian rule. According to Stephen Cross, the Nigerian state had become irredeemably corrupt and violent. He pointed to decades of economic deprivation, lack of infrastructure, and military brutality as evidence that southeastern Nigerians were being systematically oppressed. He declared that the time had come for the world to recognize what was happening not as an internal political conflict, but as a liberation war being fought by an indigenous people against colonial-style repression. He called on international human rights organizations, foreign governments, and media outlets to take a closer look and to speak out. Back in Owerri, Commander General Dayahu issued a brief statement. Surrounded by his fighters, he declared that Owerri was now under Biafran protection and would be used as a base for future operations. He emphasized discipline among his troops and ordered that no harm come to civilians or their property. This message was widely praised, especially by residents who had lived in fear under previous military regimes. The calm that followed the takeover was in stark contrast to the chaos that had preceded it. The Nigerian government, meanwhile, was quick to downplay the event. Spokespersons described it as a minor skirmish and claimed that federal troops were already on their way to retake the city. But videos and testimonies from inside Owerri told a different story. Government vehicles had been destroyed, government buildings abandoned, and local collaborators had either fled or gone into hiding. The reality was undeniable. The Biafran Liberation Army had taken Owerri, and they had done so decisively. What happens next is uncertain. Many believe that this victory will embolden the Biafran movement, inspiring similar operations in other cities. Others worry that the Nigerian government will respond with overwhelming force, leading to even more bloodshed. There are fears of an escalation into a wider regional conflict, especially if other Biafran-aligned militias begin to coordinate with Commander General Dayahu's forces. Already there are reports that fighters in Aba, Onitsha and Enugu are mobilizing. The international community has remained mostly silent. While a few human rights groups have acknowledged the rising tensions in southeastern Nigeria, there has been no official response from major world powers. This silence, according to Stephen Cross and other Biafran advocates, is complicity. They argue that the same global institutions that speak loudly about democracy and human rights elsewhere have turned a blind eye to the suffering of the Biafran people. Despite this, the movement shows no signs of slowing down. With every victory, whether in courtrooms or on the battlefield, the spirit of Biafra grows stronger. The image of Musa and Asari Dokubo's fighters fleeing Owerri will not be forgotten. It represents a shift in momentum, a change in perception, and a validation of years of sacrifice. For many, it confirms what they have always believed, that Biafra is not just an idea, but a reality waiting to be born. And so, as the sun set on June 29, 2025, over the rooftops of Owerri, a new chapter had begun. Commander Gentle Dayahu and his fighters stood victorious, not just over a city, but over decades of doubt. The people danced in the streets, sang old songs of freedom, and dared to dream once again. Whether or not the world is ready to listen, the voice of Biafra has never been louder. As night fell on June 29, 2025, Owerri glowed under the haze of bonfires and jubilant chants. The people of Imo State's capital gathered in open spaces, on balconies, and along narrow streets to sing and celebrate. Some waved flags bearing the Biafran rising sun emblem. Others wept tears of joy and disbelief. For many older residents, it felt like a moment frozen in time, a flashback to the tragic events of the late 1960s, when Biafra's first attempt at independence had ended in bloodshed and starvation. But this time, there was a different feeling in the air. This time, Biafrans were not just mourning the past, they were claiming the future. And that future was being declared by a man they had never met in person, but had come to believe in with unshakable loyalty, Commander Gentle Dayahu. Even as the gunfire faded and calm returned to Owerri's atmosphere, tension remained heavy across Nigeria. The news of Owerri's fall spread like wildfire, especially among military circles in Abuja, Lagos, Kaduna, and Enugu. Nigerian armed forces scrambled to reorganize their deployment strategy in the southeast, but uncertainty and embarrassment clouded their response. Intelligence units began to investigate how such a large-scale takeover could have occurred under their watch, and with such devastating precision. How had the Biafran Liberation Army, often dismissed in the media as a ragtag militia, managed to execute an operation that overwhelmed not just government forces, but also private paramilitary groups aligned with Abuja? General Christopher Musa, Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff, reportedly convened an emergency meeting with senior military commanders shortly after the news reached the presidency. Within hours, military orders were issued for the mobilization of fresh troops toward Imo State. Fighter jets and helicopters circled around military bases in Enugu and Port Harcourt, in preparation for what government officials called a restoration of order. However, fears of friendly fire, misinformation, and sabotage slowed the deployment. The mood inside the Nigerian military command was grim, and there were reports of quiet disagreements between Army and Air Force officers on how best to approach the rapidly escalating crisis. Meanwhile, Biafran supporters in the diaspora took the opportunity to ramp up diplomatic and media campaigns. Biafran community organizations in cities like London, Toronto, Berlin, Houston, and Johannesburg organized vigils and protests. In Berlin, a crowd of over 2,000 people gathered outside the Nigerian embassy holding banners that read, "Justice for Biafra, Free Simon Ekpa, and Owerri is ours." These peaceful protesters called on European leaders to recognize the escalating situation in southeastern Nigeria as a legitimate struggle for self-determination rather than a domestic security issue. As the movement's moral and legal case gained global traction, things inside Nigeria remained on a knife's edge. Despite threats and warnings from Nigerian military officials, Commander Gentle de Yahoo held his position. He issued a second statement through an encrypted broadcast shared on various Biafran-friendly social media platforms. Speaking calmly and firmly, he called on the people of Biafra to remain peaceful but vigilant. He encouraged other commanders across the southeast to prepare themselves, but also instructed them not to attack civilians, government workers, or essential services. His message was clear. This was not a war of destruction, but a liberation campaign to free Biafra from a system of oppression, corruption, and imposed suffering. The broadcast also addressed international observers. Commander Gentle de Yahoo challenged the United Nations, the African Union, and the European Union to visit Owerri and speak to the people directly. He stated that if they were truly committed to human rights, democracy, and peace, they would no longer turn a blind eye to the decades of violence inflicted upon southeastern Nigeria. His call was echoed by thousands of messages from ordinary citizens who recorded short videos and written testimonials about their experiences under Nigerian military rule. The movement's spiritual and ideological weight still rested heavily on Simon Njoku Ekpa, whose ongoing court case in Finland had become both a legal battle and a political symbol. On June 30th, 2025, just one day after the Owerri liberation, Finnish court officials confirmed that Simon Njoku Ekpa's trial was entering its final phase. His defense team presented fresh evidence claiming that Nigerian state agents had fabricated parts of the case against him, bribing witnesses and manipulating evidence to criminalize his political activism. His lead attorney, Maria Laaksonen, reiterated that Simon Njoku Ekpa was a lawful resident of Finland, exercising his freedom of speech and association, and that supporting self-determination movements was not a crime under Finnish or international law. The Finnish courtroom was packed with journalists, international observers, and members of the Biafran diaspora who had flown in from various parts of Europe to show solidarity. Outside the court, Biafran flags waved and chants for justice filled the air. A group of women dressed in traditional Igbo clothing knelt and sang prayers, pleading for Simon Njoku Ekpa's freedom. Among them was an elderly woman who declared through tears that her entire village had been raided by soldiers for merely owning a Biafran flag. These testimonies were captured by news cameras and shared widely online, touching hearts and reinforcing the narrative that Biafrans were not terrorists, but a people fighting for dignity, respect, and justice. Inside Nigeria, however, pressure on Igbo elites intensified. Politicians, business tycoons, and cultural leaders from the southeast were faced with a growing demand from their communities to choose sides. Many had tried for years to stay neutral or cooperate with the federal government to protect their interests. But the events in Owerri had changed the equation. The people were no longer willing to accept silence as an excuse. In several towns and villages, protests broke out demanding that their traditional rulers and elected officials publicly declare support for the Biafran cause or step down from leadership. Videos emerged of community members confronting local council chairmen and blocking roads with placards demanding immediate withdrawal of military personnel. Igbo politicians in Abuja, such as Senator Chukwuma Orji, found themselves in an impossible position. If they condemned the Biafran Liberation Army, they risked alienating their base and being seen as traitors. If they supported the movement, they would be labeled as enemies of the state and potentially face arrest. Some chose silence. Others issued carefully worded statements calling for peace and dialogue. But their attempts at balancing politics and loyalty appeared increasingly unsustainable. The people wanted clarity, the people wanted justice, and above all, the people wanted freedom.
No Biafra, no peace. No Biafra, no peace. No Biafra, no peace. Ukide woto for Amugu. Amugu dizika ezade. Amugu dizika ezade. Ebi Amugu ibelifo. Obini kwekide woto. Awa obini kwekide woto. Mpa obini kwe ibolanda woto sempa. Mpa obini kwe ibolanda woto.
Here na Iron Gate now. Here Iron Gate now. Here Obrahar here. They play the show. Here Iron Gate. After Gate we can now. Here ga park a mountain car. Leku Obra. Then alert. Leku Obra. Here Obrahar. Pastor. Here Jang Glove ya. Here Jang Glove haji make treatment here. Dara. Then collect. Ano na nia. Oslewu kwano na nia. Kwano na nia. Boy, dash it down. Boy, le. Dash it down. Kwano na nia.
Life update. Biafrans all over the continent of the world. This is a live update currently happening now as I am reporting this information for Biafrans, for international communities to understand that the Biafra Liberation Army, Biafra Defense Forces are at work. We are in a serious battle with Nigerian terrorist government. They have come with their many armor tanks. We are dealing with them now in Owerri. It is happening live and direct. After the battle in Okigwe, they came to Owerri. We are engaging them match to match, bomb to bomb, bullet to bullet, iron to iron. So this information is coming to you from the office of Major General Gento de Yahoo, the Papa Okigwe in general. So I want Biafrans to understand what is currently going on. That is a brutal war that is going. I want the international community to understand that the Biafra Liberation Army is at war. I want all the saboteurs to understand that the men on ground are seriously in war. The Triple General are doing everything possible means in his own capacity to make sure that the Biafra land is protected. Major General Gento de Yahoo is doing everything on his own jurisdiction, making sure that the Biafra land is protected. And all commanders that are working assiduously for the total protection, eradication of Fulanis in the heart of Biafra land. Kudos to the men on ground. Kudos. Watch and share to your loved ones. Currently, what is going on in Owerri State, we are there live and direct, dealing with these animals.
Motanka kurunya na.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nyenye mege na. Yeah. That was Sunday.
Yeah,
June 27. I beat and see. I know. On your come.
roof.
What a
Roof.
yeah, and I got come.
I will be the end to Tinubu's administration, and I will be the end to Tinubu, and that has come to pass. And you know what? Nigeria has had it on. Do you understand what I mean? It is now over for Nigeria because you understand that they can never stand Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Mazi Simon Ekpa in Kenya, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has defeated Nigerian government in Kenya. In Nigerian court, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has defeated Nigeria in their own court as well. That is to show you that what we are doing something that is meaningful, that is not against the laws of UN anywhere in the world. It's not against any law. Now you can see the way they rushed, kidnapped Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Anybody who saw the arrest and the kidnap of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu will think that this guy is a terrorist. Now you could not come to the court to, prove your case. You could not come to, defend your case. You are sending people, covering their faces. Can you see how shameful that you people can be? How shameful you are. That is what Nigeria is known for. Corruption, terrorism. This is who Tinubu and the former president of Nigeria is. They are worse than evil. Muhammadu Buhari and this Bola Ahmed Tinubu, they are worse than evil. I'm telling you. Now, these are the people who went to pay money to the Igbo brothers of ours so that they can come and testify against Mazi Simon Ekpa. These are the men who said Simon is a terrorist. Simon is terrorizing the southeast. Simon is terrorizing the whole Nigeria. Simon is killing Nigerian soldiers. These are the men who said it. But they could not come to that same Finland when the opportunity set itself in to come and defend their cases. That is how you know how corrupt Nigeria is. Nigeria is a very corrupt country, I'm telling you. And today, look at it. The people that they paid money, including Ogenkere, the people that they paid huge amount of money to come and destroy what we are doing. You can see how they started exposing themselves. Because of greed. Because of greed. Ogenkere refuses to bring enough money out so that they will share within themselves. You know, when I said it, people were shouting, attacking me. But my words may not be meaningful to some of you. But because you people are very shameless. Very shameless indeed. You don't have shame. Adadi Orama came out the other day now insulting APM. You think you don't know who we are? You think we have forgotten all the evil that you have done to us? You think so? You think so? We have everything in record. And I'm telling you, you can never escape this. None of you will escape it. Vam claimed that, the whole turnaround in the whole, Brigade fallout now, the same Brigade that told us that Mazi Simon Ekpa told them. The reason of this fallout, and you see, the reason of this whole misunderstanding in their group is because of one thing. They went to Finland and the Prime Minister told them one thing. One thing, and that is that thing that he told them that is destroying their cabals. These are the people that were looking, that you thought were looking for Biafra for you. When the Adadi Orama comes to talk, you see people telling her, ride on, the terrorists. Have you ever seen an Hausa man calling themselves terrorists? Have you ever anywhere in the Yoruba land calling a Yoruba indigenous person a terrorist? Why is it that it's only the Igbos that call themselves terrorists, and whereas we are the most loving and peaceful people in the world? That is what Adadi Arama is calling Ngozi Orakwe. That is what Adadi Arama and Van is calling the USB that Adadi Arama went to Finland to be a signatory to. And you allow the same terrorists to come to Finland. This is how they play. This is how they roll. This is their game. This is who they are. When I tell you that these people are worse than evil, you think we're joking. They are animals. They don't care about humans. I told you. Vam is acting because he was giving money. All these people that you see attacking Ngozi Oraweze, attacking me, attacking Chuk Survivor, attacking Ugo 247, and every Biafran people that, you know, talk about the evil that they are doing, all of them have been paid. They can't pay me for my freedom. It's not possible. Not on this planet Earth, I'm telling you. I can never be paid for my freedom. As long as I voted to leave Nigeria, I am defending my own vote. Look at it. Look at the results. It started playing out. More is to come. Oh. This one that you are seeing is even small. More is to come. More is to come. These are very shameless individuals. Very shameful people indeed. People that sold their conscience to the devil. Imagine Ogenkere telling us that he asked the men on ground to stand down to prove a point. And the Nigerian government, Christopher Musa and Tinubu, went to the southeast and massacred our people without any remorse. Without any provocation. And you want me to sit here and be happy? You want me to sit here and be happy? We have come to make sure that Nigeria will never exist under our watch. I want to bequeath my children a good nation, a Biafran that is sustainable. Not this kind of Nigeria. All of you that are selling Alaba market, how many times do they come to lock your shops? How many times are the Yorubas coming to intimidate you? Ask you for money that they didn't work for. If you don't pay them that money, they will lock your shops. How many times have they set your shops on fire? How many times? How many times did things happen to us and we would have sense? Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is in DSSS dungeon today. Why? Because of you and I. And we are all comfortable. When we ask us to stay at home, you will say no. Oh, they are destroying our economy. The money that they have been generating before this sit at home started, and even from Tuesday to Saturday, what are they doing with it? Can you see how people are suffering in the southeast and all over Nigeria today because of Tinubu's administration and Christopher Musa? Can you see it? Is it ipob that is killing everybody, or rather, not ipob is even nothing? Is it what is he called? Mazi Nnamdi Kanu or Mazi Simon Ekpa or Dr. Ngozi Oraweze that is killing people in the whole of Nigeria today? The answer is no. It is the same Nigeria that is calling us a terrorist, that is terrorizing the same Nigerians. Every small thing, Tinubu will come out. Christopher Musa will come out on social media, on internet. Oh, get Simon arrested. Simon is the problem of the insecurity in the southeast. Now, what is happening? Why is Brekete family not talking anymore? Why is Bianca Olowu not talking? Why is everybody quiet now that knows how to do it better than Nnamdi Kanu and Simon Ekpa? Why is all of you quiet today? None of you can talk again. When they give you people small change, small money, you people will start pasmagaring, doing a. At the end of the day, you cannot talk when they are now unaliving your people. These are very shameless people. Very, very shameless people indeed. Very shameless. They don't have shames. At the end of the day, you see them come on national TV. I thought you are the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Bianca Olowu. Why didn't you come to Finland's case? To face Simon Ekpa? Or what is your name? Christopher Musa? Why didn't you come to Finland? To come and face that madman that you called a small boy. That madman that is a nobody that is destroying the southeast. The moment Mazi Simon Ekpa was removed, you people went and started unaliving our people. Without any provocation. And you think we're going to sit here to watch you people do that anymore? It is very, very appalling. Nigerian has no clue of what is coming. They have no clue, I'm telling you the truth. They thought they would jail Mazi Simon Ekpa. They thought they would have brought him back to Nigeria. They thought all their bribery and corruption would work on Simon Ekpa. But they were disappointed. Yes, really, I can tell you that they were disappointed. Because Europe is not Africa. They were disappointed. The trial went on, and I want you to understand that the trial has ended. Nigeria was not able to provide any reasonable evidence against Simon Ekpa. That is how shameful you are. And you didn't tell them that Simon has taken you to the International Criminal Court. They have sued you. You didn't tell them that. Anyways, Biafrans, I want you guys to understand that I think in a week from now, Simon will be regaining his freedom, because every paper for his freedom would be, attended to by next week, and from there he will walk free. And I want to tell you this, that there is not going to be any condition attached to his bail. They can never tell him to stop fighting for Biafra. Never, not on this planet Earth, because it is not a crime in the international world. And I keep telling you this, that what is a crime here is that when somebody is walking without any provocation, you attack that person, it's a crime, you go to jail. But as long as that is not what Mazi Simon Ekpa is doing, he can never. Nigerians are the one in trouble. Number one, they forcefully accused the man, locked him up for 6 months, as they claimed. Two, they went as far as Kenya to kidnap Onyendo Nnamdi Kanu, and today they are still battling to see one thing to convince him with. Can you see how shameful they are? Very, very shameful. How can you call that country a country? And that is why most of us will go to embassies. We are traveling with Nigerian passport. They keep rejecting you, bouncing you back, throwing you back. When they see you with Nigerian passport, they have heavy security watching you, checking you. Even you go through punishment because you are carrying a green passport that does not have swag anywhere in the world. Have you ever seen such passport before? Very shameful people indeed. More is to come. More is to come. Now, Adadi Orama is fighting APM. APM that stole Biafran's money. APM that Enugu state governor and the Nigerian state paid money to destroy Obatobi. And when I said he decided fighting me, oh, now they have agreed that the money changed hand. I'm resurrected. Thank you, Biafrans. May God bless you all. I will be here to tell you nothing but the truth. Nothing but the truth. I'm telling you. Anywhere I hear puke that is the truth, I will come and throw it to you. Look at what Adadi Orama, Sonia Barawa, Ogenkere wanted to do to over 80 million Biafrans, including our mothers and our father that voted legitimately to exit Nigeria, to truncate all those things, to tear those documents and throw them into the trash. That is how to tell you how wicked Ogenkere and his group, and they will never go scot-free, not on this planet Earth. Wait until our prime minister is out. And I keep telling the Nigerian government, I will continue to repeat it, that remove all your terrorist army, your police, any of your military apparatus in the southeast before it gets too late. Because when these two legendaries come out, I don't think you have chances.
This is the end of our news update. Please click the icon on the top right corner of your screen to watch my next video. You will enjoy it. I will see you again in my next update. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye for now.